Welcome to episode 24, I believe, of Lost in Translation with Bobby Martin. I'm Sam Perkins, and joining us today is one of my all-time favorite players, all-time favorite people that I've interacted with. It's been a very long time since I've seen him. It's given me serious flashbacks, but head basketball coach of Lynn English, former college basketball player at the University of New Hampshire, former professional hooper, Alvin Abreu. Alvin, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Man, this is good to have you here, man. I'm excited.
I remember being up in Ludholm with Bobby watching you play, man. I can't believe that was like a decade ago, more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
Man.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I still can't believe it.
You're one of the more remarkable journeys of people that I know. And it's funny, we've had like a UNH connection because we had Gene Bain, then we had Dane DeLegro, and now we've got Alvin Abreu.
My guys.
Of guys that have been on the show, our most recent guest, which is pretty funny. But, you know, when you take a look back and look at just your journey, you know, you talk about immigrant experience in the United States. You talk about when you got here growing up in Lynn, which is a pretty hard-knock city, young father, losing your own father, your mom going through cancer, no Division I offers coming out of high school, like, and where you are now and where you've gone, like, just do you ever just take a step back and just look at the journey and think about it a little bit?
First off, shout out to you guys. You guys are doing a good job on this podcast. I've been checking out the last couple of interviews, even before that. But my guys, Dan and Coach Bain, they were instrumental in my experience at UNH. And shout out to you with the documentary. I look back at that like, wow, man.
I watched that the other day. That's still one of my favorite things I've ever done.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you on that, man. That was even. I don't even think when we were filming that we knew it was gonna. Well, you probably did, but I didn't know it was gonna be as impactful for me.
I had no idea.
You know, so shout out to you on that. But you know, to answer your question, I mean, we come from a sport, background where you have to have a short-term memory to move forward with things. And I think, sometimes I'm able to relive those, trials and tribulations that I've had in my life, with my oldest son, Xavier. He's 17 now. He's my firstborn, and a lot of the stuff that I went through was in his early years and, me being a teenager and all that stuff. And I'm able to kind of live and look back at some of those things and say, wow, like, you just push forward and, find a way, and that's me in a nutshell. I don't get caught up in what's going on, and I'm always confident that God has me, and then I'm always find a way, some way, somehow.
But you grew up, you spoke Spanish, right?
First language.
First
I mean, I went to school here. First language. Both my parents were born in Dominican Republic. My grandparents migrated over.
I didn't know that. Dímelo, loco. ¿Cómo está la vaina? ¿Qué lo que es?
Yeah, no. So Spanish was my first language. I had to learn it in school. I mean, as far as English goes. So in summertime, we spent most of our summers, my sister and I, in Dominican with my family and my grandparents when they travel every summer. So it became a point where, I had to hang around more later on when I started getting into basketball. But, I had to learn the language here. I have cousins of mine that spoke English at the time, like I mentioned in the documentary. And, for you to learn your native language is very important, I think, here in America, United States. But it's easier the way for me where I had to learn English versus the other way around, right? Because that's your native language spoken at home. So it was huge. It was huge just kind of getting over that obstacle with the language barrier. But I learned pretty early, probably in pre-K, kindergarten around that time. I pretty much picked on the English.
So
That's awesome.
So both your parents are Dominican, but basketball is kind of the sports love of your life. So, I mean, I know what basketball, we've talked about it for years, what it meant to you. No one ever pushed you into baseball?
I tried it, man. I played freshman baseball at Lynn Classical. Didn't go so well. I don't like baseball, to be honest with you. I mean, I probably get crucified and my Dominican card taken away with that. But it's just not. It's not fast paced for me, and it never was my thing. I tried it. I stole a couple of bases, but it struck out a lot.
Did you, while you were there, did you come in contact with Felipe Lopez and guys like that?
In DR?
Yeah.
No. Not during
Tito
that time.
Tito Horford, none of those guys, the OGs?
Not in my time.
Okay,
man.
all right.
In 09, when I was at UNH, I did get invited to the Dominican national team tryout camp. In that time, it was Francisco Garcia, Al Horford, Charlie Villanueva from UConn at the time. Well, he's in NBA at that time. Edgar Sosa from Louisville at that time. There was some dogs on that, man. It was some competitive practices, and that got me ready. I remember Coach Harry was like, Coach Bain was like, "Hey, is he coming back?" I was like, "Of course I am." But I took the whole summer and I just trained out there with pros and did the national team experience, and that was a memorable experience in itself.
So what was it like growing up in Lynn? It's a city that, I grew up in Cambridge, and it's like the cities kind of know each other, but like Lynn was that like, it was out there a little bit, kind of North Shore, and it was like, you just didn't know it that well. And you hear a lot of, I think, stereotypes and different things. So what was your experience like as a kid growing up?
I mean, at the time for me, if you were, I was into sports, so I wasn't really into any of the stuff that you hear stereotypically that from Lynn. Not saying it doesn't happen, right? But it's actually my childhood. I had a really, really good childhood as far as where I grew up with 5 cousins of mine, including my sister. We played kickball, we played manhunt, we played all those fun games in the summertime that you don't see nowadays. And then we'd also get on a bike and just hit up different parks and play ball all day. That was my childhood. That was where you kind of got your hands dirty and you grinded, right? And you get up and go do it the next day. It isn't, I'm sore today because we went hard yesterday. We legit say we either going to play. I grew up playing in Kylie Park on East Lynn, but that didn't stop us from going to Westland down,
right?
By where Classical's at, the Breed Course they call them. We also went to Kerwin Circle. We hooped everywhere at that time, and that was my childhood. But Lynn, it gets crazy if you don't have positive role models around you. If you don't have, it's a lot of single parent households in Lynn, where guys are not getting, they don't have a father figure. It's one of the reasons also why I got into coaching after I was done playing, because I noticed a lot of kids, they can use that positive role model, where we can set some standards and kind of hold them accountable and just guide them, to be honest with you.
How do you feel the kids react to you when you're trying to, the tougher kids, when you're trying to teach them some type of life lesson? Because it usually takes time, right?
It does. It does. And that's what we're learning with this era. I had to adjust myself as well because I'm used to my era, right? But as a coach, I've learned pretty fast that you have to adjust to how these kids respond now.
Yeah.
And they're not going to all respond to you just reaming them like before, because before we just get up and just say, all right, I'll fix it. But now it's different because, there's more awareness in mental health situations with kids, and sometimes you don't know. It's a fine line with that, and you have to legit find a way to kind of connect and where you can. But there's some guys, like I've had guys coaching wise that I could say whatever to them, and they're like, all right, I got you, coach, stuff like that. So it's harder nowadays, Bobby, honestly. And as you know, everyone knows, no secret. Everyone says these kids are soft nowadays, but there are still some dogs out there, and Lynn knows how to breed some dogs when it comes to athletes as far as basketball.
Why was it? What was it about basketball? How did you get into it? And then my other question is, you talk about positive role models. I wanted to hear who were some of your positive role models when you were growing up.
Sure. It was just the thing to do. You went to play. When it's hot outside, you went to go play. It wasn't. I never saw it. Like I said, it wasn't something that I saw that would take me where it took me. Right. It was just like, okay, everyone's saying they're going to play at Colley Park. They want to play at whatever park is in Lynn. Right. And we go play. And then what happens at those parks is that you might suck one day. You might suck that whole summer, right? You're not really good. And then you start building that competitive juice where it's like, okay, I'm gonna come get you, because then there's gonna be some people talking some trash out there, right? And it's like you either fold or you get back up and figure that out, and then you just can't wait till the day where it's your turn, right? And then you just kind of have that appetite to continue to get better and compete. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of the game is missing, is just that appetite just to go out and compete. Forget looking good, forget anything else, forget being embarrassed, as long as you go out there and compete. And that was me early on. Was that just how I play hard defense and just kind of like be not worried about stuff. And then the other skill stuff came along later on, but the competitive juices was what drove me.
So it was that I think they call it the crock pot theory. You know, back in the day, your parents cook in a crock pot, so it's nice and slow. You know, you get that taste in it, that flavor. So you put a foot in it, right? And you got to wait. You got to wait your turn. Yeah, and that I think that probably helps you get tougher.
We talked with Gene about this, and Gene's a little closer in age to me. You know, I'm kind of right in between you guys. Gene was a senior Gene Bain was a senior in college when I was a senior in high school. But, you know, I'm of the generation, and it was still going on for you, and I've talked to so many people, like, playing pickup at the park, like, for all of the skill work kids are getting and all of the exposure that they're getting these days, and I think that there's great aspects of that. I'm not here saying, like, oh, there's nothing good that comes out of, like, having skill coaches. And, like, yeah, because the game is more skilled. People, but, like, there was a level of toughness and of fortitude that you had to build up, like, playing pickup at the park. I'm of the generation, I still remember, man, even in middle school, like, my generation was I literally would wear, like, Boss jeans that were, like, 8 times too big for me, with basketball shorts underneath them. Even me, like little white kid Sam, because you never know when a game's going to break out and you need to be ready for it.
Always.
And like, I mean, I remember waiting all day long in the summer to get on the court. And it's like, you get on the court, you don't want to lose that game because you might not get back on the court for the rest of the day. And like getting like grown man setting a pick on you. And it did something for like the toughness, I think, that is like lacking today.
Yeah. And that's that process that everyone wants to skip nowadays, which is that, right? I spent so many years, let's say, at our local YMCA when it gets cold around this time, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, usually at 7 o'clock is where the adults come in. And that's when it's like maybe some guys that played as college ball, whatever, kind of, or just the OGs that just hooped and that nobody knew. Everyone, only in Lynn knew, right?
Yep.
And at that point, if you was good enough, the Y will let you stay and play with those guys, because the older guys are going to say, no, he can stay.
Yeah, keep the young fella
We're
here.
good. He's all right.
He's good.
But I spent many years having to leave before 7, right? Getting kicked out till you get that one opportunity where they might not have 10, and you might get in that one game. You know this is your shot, right? Mm-hmm. And you do your thing, and as long as they compete, young fella, so they guide you along the way, you know, and then you start kind of building that, because you're going against grown men. So it's like you're not going to out-muscle them. You're not going to outsmart them at the time. So you're just kind of like picking and choosing while they're guiding you. And that's that process that it's like, you know, there was not much entitlement back then because it wasn't allowed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it wasn't allowed for you to walk around entitled on that basketball court. You had to earn every bit of that. Nowadays, sometimes it could be because I got this or I got this highlight, that highlight. It can be you could have a sense of entitlement just walking through the door without getting anything done. So that's the difference. I can kind of sum it up that way from then and then now. But at the end of the day, we still have to adjust to the time.
Yeah.
Right?
You know,
Well said.
Bobby, I mean, I'm sure, you know, growing up in Atlantic City, when you were a kid, even in college, even after college, if you went back home in the summers, you probably couldn't find an empty court in the summer. And Lynn, I remember in high school, the few times I was up there, what it looked like the court. In Cambridge, man, every court was packed down by the river, the Patrick Ewing courts, the Rinjav court, everything. And like now, I drive around in the summer and I see so many empty basketball courts, and it hurts my heart, man. You know, like
it's crazy.
Well, they've got NBA 2K. They can play that, right? You can play 2K. You don't want to go outside.
Yeah. Oh, it's too hot.
It's too hot. Yeah, it's too hot.
But I remember speaking of it too, how like some people that were instrumental in my like early on once I hit high school, because I didn't make my 7th and 8th grade teams for basketball. Like, you know, and a lot of my guys that we used to play in the parks with, you know, you keep growing with the same kids and, you know, you don't make your team, that's a make or break time right there. You don't make it back-to-back years. It's like, all right, normally anyone else would be like, okay, I'm done. You know, but then me going to classical, you know, my freshman coach, James Abreu, you know, may he rest in peace. He gave me a shot at making that freshman team, and I was excited as hell. Nowadays, people don't get excited for making freshman team, but I was excited.
No, all the kids want to make varsity, right?
They want varsity right away, but me, I was excited. I was like,
yeah,
word, I finally made a team, and, you know, and I gave it my all that year. And then, you know, big shout out to Marcos Echeverria. I don't. You probably heard from him around him and Calvin. They won back-to-back state championships out there in classical, and he was an assistant at the time, and he spent a lot of time with me in that summer. You know, that summer going into my sophomore year, you know, he saw some talent in me, and we just went at it. It was every day in the summer, whether it was 100 degrees out or not. And he used to get mad at me like, damn, you're gonna I'm hoping I probably call out. And I'm like, nah, we get in it, and we you know, we worked a lot on my shot. We worked on a lot of stuff. You know, 1 dribble pull-ups, 2 dribble pull-ups that summer, and that's just the grind that I am. You know, when I set my mind out to go get something, I'm gonna work my ass off to go get it.
When did you start thinking, you know, I think maybe I could play in college? When was that, and then what did you have to do from there to get there?
It happened so fast because it was after, I want to say it was probably after my senior year at Clinton Classical. It was after that time where, you know, I had a good run in the state tournament. We ended up losing to Charlestown that year in overtime. But I had a good run that season as well as in the state tournament. I think after that is where the college opportunity kind of, you know, presented itself with different, you know, coaches coming by and seeing me at different runs. And then we had the Guinness All-Star games. I think I got the MVP in that. I had a good run as far as that spring and summer, where college coaches told me, like, you could play college ball. And I'm like, oh, I could. You're just kind of like, okay. So, you know, what do I have to do? Type of thing, you know? So that's pretty much where it happened late, and it happened fast late.
So what do you do from there? Because I know you went to a prep.
Yep.
You know, you were kind of, I think, of the generation where prep was becoming a thing. Like, I was class of 2002. I had the opportunity to prep, and I didn't. I was like, no, I want to go right to playing in college. And, like, overnight, it's like prep became a thing. But how did you navigate that process?
I mean, I was 17, so I was young. I missed my junior year with a knee injury in high school, so I feel like I didn't even play a lot of high school ball. So, you know, in graduating, you know, coming to that actually after that spring or that summer, I did a couple workouts, and I want to say it was Sacred Heart that offered me, and U Albany at the time. And looking back at it, I was like, what was I thinking? I should have just took it and ran with it, right? But at the time, it's just the lack of knowledge on my end, the lack of me not understanding that maybe college was an opportunity for me. You know, looking back at it, I was like, if you had an offer right there, you probably
you were 17.
You were 17. So, you know, from there I went on to prep at the Gunnery in Connecticut, and you know, it was a good year for me to finally first time being away from home,
right,
and adjusting to that, seeing if I'm able to kind of handle that. Basketball went well, but it wasn't a school really for basketball like that. And then I went out to the south side of Chicago to Boys to Men Academy, and that was top notch ball.
So who were the players out there in Chicago at that point?
Man, it was my coach Lauren Jackson. Man, he's the best of the best. Man, he coaches now at Victory Rock Prep down in Florida, and it was like night and day from here because it was all like ballers. It was top 100 kids, and it was, you know, we practiced at 6 a.m., so you walk into practice, there is like Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino's, like Tom Crean,
at 6 a.m.
and it was like,
that wake you up quick.
And now that I know now, I'm looking at it crazy because I'm like, there's no way a head coach would be at 6 in the morning, but they were head coaches. the college level there. At the time, we had this guy, Matt Koshwal, that was top. We was right up there with Beasley because that was Beasley's year. So it was kind of like we matched up with them. We played against DeAndre Jordan 100 times. He went to like Texas Christian Life out of Texas. We played them all the time. So it was like a, going from Lynn Classical kind of that prep school into that was instrumental to my game because now I had to go compete again. You had to go. It's a kid from Boston, right? And they say Boston because they don't know. No one knows where Lynn's at. So you had to say, "Oh, from Boston," and you kind of all you had was your game. So it was definitely a good time there. But then around that time, I had Xavier and came back home.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you're a teenager still, you have your son. I think your dad passes away. Your mom battles breast cancer. Just like all this off the court stuff. Like, take me through that. How do you navigate that as a teenager?
I don't know, man. It's a lot of stuff just gets suppressed, gets put away. To be honest with you. And then nowadays, when you look at the just awareness around mental health, there's so much trauma that a lot of kids like myself have been through till this day that I'm still not recovered from, right? And I think I just put it away and I just put it into my craft. I just would go to the gym. I'd go to the gym, I'd hoop, or I'd go and get some shots up by myself, or I'll go work out, whatever it may be. But it's at the end of the day, you're not addressing that trauma, right? So it's something that definitely has affected me, and me being older now, and me seeing younger kids now dealing with stuff. You can see like, okay, it's not okay,
I think that because there's such an emphasis on the mental health now, when we were kids, there were, I don't know of any psychologists or treatment centers that were around for the kids. So you learn how to put things wherever they're going to be just so you can keep going.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways, it helps because, you see that it's not easy, but I got to do something to survive. I have to do this. You just hope you don't go on that other side. Right. You see your boys going on the other side, you're like, oh, yeah. Nah, so you got those positive role models in your life.
Right.
And this is an amazing story. I didn't know all this.
Yeah, man. That's what Alvin's one of the most amazing people I've encountered through sports, and that's
for sure.
I've been around for a long time, played at a high level in some different sports, and then covered it, and so it really is. I want to talk a little more because I can't. So I had my son Jack as a 30-year-old. I'm in my 30s. Yeah, I'm 39 now. He's 7, and I struggled when he was born. Because I was still processing my trauma from losing both my parents. Mm-hmm. I struggled to connect with him early on. Him and his mom and me, we separated when he was really, really little. I had to work through a lot of stuff. And he is like everything to me. He is my guy. He is my favorite, him, my wife, and my son Avi are my favorite people. But me and Jack, it's a very special relationship because there was a lot of obstacles, and some of them were my own mental health and stuff that I had to work through from my losses and walls that I had put up because of the people I'd lost. And I can't imagine doing that as a teenager. Like, just how did you navigate being a teenage parent and what was your relationship like with Xavier when he was first born? And
it's a lot of trial and error. What else? What else at the time? I didn't have a father figure outside of my dad passed at 16, but I didn't live with him, right?
Right.
My father figures were my grandfather. It was my uncle, right? Combination of that, and then just kind of figuring stuff out. And so you really don't have a guideline on how to do the things right? And I'm not sitting up here and saying I did everything right.
What type of? So you said this is your grandfather you were around?
Yes, my grandparents.
So your grandparents, man. Tell me about your experience with your grandparents.
Oh, my grandfather was old school, man. My grandfather was you couldn't. He didn't play that, man. He was real because he migrated over and brought he worked. He's kind of he gets his hands dirty. He worked. He was very strict. He was very strict in his way. but you understand all that now.
Yeah.
At that time, it was like, why can't I go down the hill? Or why can't I do this? Or why can't I do that? And we knew if he catch you, he's gonna snatch you up in public. It doesn't care who it was, but if he sees you down, you were scared, right? So, but I didn't end up, doing anything like that. And shout out to him now. He's I see it more now because, my family jokes around here and there, like, hey, you're like Grampy or whatever like that, as far as the way I am with that. And honestly, I don't even take that as a insult. I take it as a compliment because he's took care of his family. Mm-hmm. He took care of his family, right or wrong. He did it his way, and I learned a lot from him. So, bringing it back to me being a parent at that age, what are you going to know, right? What are you going to know at 18, 19, as far as raising you're a kid. I just had a conversation with Xavier probably 3 weeks ago when he turned 17. I said, imagine you having a kid like a 2-year. He's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's me. So that's why I'm glad I'm able to have these conversations with him and the rest of my program and my kids now, as far as what I have at English. And I let them know, like, look, I didn't have somebody tell me, not to do this or how to do this. If you're in the gym, whatever. I didn't have that. And that's why I'm here for a reason. Use me. I've been through a lot of you know what I'm saying? So I was like, so use me. So.
There are a lot of people that will say, I've been through a lot of Alvin's been through a lot of He really has.
I have. And there's a reason behind it. I don't know why. Am I happy with the things? No. But they are what they are.
Made you.
It made me. It's what made me.
Yeah.
And it's what helped me right now when it comes to raising my family. And, I got a fiance. I got 2 other kids now, Amari and Samia. So I got a daughter. She's my sweetheart. So I got 2 boys and a girls now. So this time around, it's different, because I learned from my mistakes when it comes to Xavier, right? And we as parents, like, you can't beat yourself up when it comes to stuff like that, because no matter how many people, they can write 1,000 books on how to be a parent. There ain't no manual to it.
No,
it's hard for me. I'm constantly thinking about with Jack, like, things that if I could do it over, I would have done differently. If I had, was in different headspace or knowing them. But it's like I really try to consciously remind myself to focus on all the things that I did right, because, it wasn't the same. I won't lie. It wasn't as hard. It wasn't close to being a teenager. But by the time I had my son, both my parents had been killed, and so it was still like I didn't really have any guidance on what to do. And it was a lot of trial and error, like you said. It was resonating with me, and I try to, like, just remind myself of, like, the positives that like I did. I'm curious, and I because you have a son. You said you came back. How did you wind up at UNH? Like, how did that happen? It was an interesting group of guys that you wound up coming into UNH with, man. Like, you talk about a cast of characters up there. You, Dane, Tyrone Conley, Eric Gilchrist as a JUCO transfer was that year. Ronnie, like Chichua, like there was some guys that from different walks of life that wound up there.
Can you believe we still all talk to this day? Those are my guys. I was just talking to Kobe Santos 2 days ago when I was up by Brown. It's just, I don't know how. I know, Gene Bain. I remember I went on my visit. I think the next day he brought me the letter of intent, like you could decide. I think Coach Bain lived in Revere or somewhere where it's like he brought those papers back. But I don't know. I mean, I was away in Chicago, and coming back, and then the opportunity as far as how many scholarships they had at that time, and then just the opportunity to possibly come in and earn some minutes right away. I wasn't promised anything. I wasn't guaranteed anything. But when I did go up there and I played pickup, which I don't know if they do nowadays, but I did play pickup on my official visit, I saw myself to, have a chance. I'd have a chance to earn some minutes at the time. And, and then that summer school, when we went up there, us 5, we were calling us the Fab Five. It was us, Sal Abdo, Dane DeLegro, Tyrone, and Ronnie. we were all up there together and just kind of in Ghost Town in Durham, New Hampshire. Like, what is going on? There's nothing to do here, and it's like, is this what it's like? And then we're going through strength and conditioning, and we're going through our summer classes, and those are my brothers, man. Those are my guys. We can not talk for a month or a week or a year, and nothing changes. Yeah. We still reminisce, and as most college athletes, you still reminisce with so many of your teammates because you went through a different grind with them for 4 or 5 years in college where you know that that's who you're with all the time. And those are my guys. Shout out to them. And they're all doing their thing, man. And they know where they stand with me, man. Those are my brothers.
You know, the crazy thing, you didn't start the first game. Like, you weren't a starter right away. And I remember, like, the media, when people were talking about, like, you were kind of like an afterthought. Like, people were talking about, like, who were going to be the impact freshmen on UNH. Like, they got all these minutes to go around. And then it was like you came in, and I remember I went to a bunch of your guys' games that year. And I was like, early on, I was like, man, this kid. At the time, everyone was saying Abreu. They were saying your name wrong.
Either way.
But, like, it was like, man, this kid can. I remember saying to Bill Harrion, like, he'd been around for a long time, like, this kid looks like he could be something special. And I just remember he was like, yeah, he's pretty good. Like, when did you know, like, hey, like I can hang in this league and I can do some stuff here?
I think that's me. That's my story when it comes to things. It's like you get overlooked, and you know there's always that other guy that's over there, and then you kind of like seeing him there, and he's kind of building. He's building, then you have to.
You sizing him up.
You sizing him up. Like, okay,
I got it.
You know, and that's what it was, because I went in there. I wasn't any stars as far as recruit goes. I didn't give a about that anyway, right? But when we step in between some lines, and it's just grinding, that work is gonna show. It's gonna show eventually. Some people run out of patience before it actually turns their way. Most people do, right? Because you're legit. You're grinding with no results, but with the hope that it's gonna come. It's gonna get there, you know. And it's a hard grind. Like that's just the cards I'm dealt. My grind is always gonna be a harder grind, and then when you look back at it, you're like, wow, okay, the work was there. You know what I mean? The results were there.
So I'm interested to know what are the conversations that you have with your son? Does he have the same type of patience you have? Xavier?
Xavier.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. He our conversations.
We talking about you, young fella.
He had Zay. Shout out to Zay, man. That's my guy. He has that work ethic, and that's what I'm proud of, because he have the patience? No. I would say no in the sense. Well, he's in the era of where he's dealing with more of a social pressure when it comes to that. So you're not allowed. You're really not allowed to be patient nowadays, right? And it's not because it's his fault on it, right? But I'm so proud of him. This past summer, I told him, like, look, if you want to get to the next level, you gotta do kind of things that you have to do more. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to do more. Just what you are, your son's. You're my son, so you're gonna have to do more, in the sense that he's not like people will overlook him. Yeah. And then this summer we got up at 5 a.m. We got working. We walked working, and we pushed and we pushed. Some mornings he got left till he gets up now at school early before classes. He's doing that.
I love it. And so some mornings he got left, huh?
What was that?
Some mornings he got left?
Yes, he got left, of course.
That's beautiful, man. I love that.
Of course he got left, because I told him, you know.
Bus is leaving, right?
It's one of those things where, like, do you really want it or no? And if you don't want it, it's fine. It's like that. I never pushed that on him.
I love, dude, that makes me think of, I've talked on here, and my dad was far from a perfect human being, but he was the biggest influence in my life, the most important person to me. I lost him when I was a teenager. It's one of those things that I never got over. But, you know, that was one of the things that, if my sons are into sports, and Jack's 7, and sports aren't his thing right now, and he's got it in his DNA. Both of his grandparents were professional athletes. You know, I was an athlete. His mom was an athlete. Both of his grandfathers were professional athletes. He has 2 great-grandfathers that were professional athletes. He's an athletic kid. He's not into it right now. But, like, if him or if Avi, who seems much more into sports and balls and stuff, like, if that's their thing, great, but like not going to push it on them. And what I took away from my dad, my dad played at a very high level. He played out at UMass. Amherst played basketball. He was like a foot taller than me. I didn't have his height. And he was very real with me of, if you want to do this, I'm in it with you. I'm in it to the end with you if you want to put in the work, but I'm not going to do it for you. Right. And he was like, look, you are never going to be my size. You're never going to be 6'7". You are a little guy, and like you are going to have to work harder than everybody else if you want to do something with it. And I love hearing that. I coached for a while. I was never a coach of your esteem or Bobby's esteem, but like I saw so many parents burn out really talented, great kids that were really talented because the parents wanted it more than the kid did. And it's like, you got to tell them, hey, if you want this, this is how hard you got to work, and be real. Like, you're not working hard enough, but like you can't do it for them. So it's really nice to hear. Like, this reminds me so much of why I loved sports as a kid, because my dad like showed me how to work hard, told me how to work hard, but he didn't force me to do it. It was like, it's on you at some point.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you see it all the time right now with parents. I see it a lot where it's like they want it more than the kid. There's some of my players now, I'm like, I can't want it more than you. It's a partnership. I'm going to meet you. I'm cool with doing, 60-40, but it can't be, 90, 95-5 or 90, like, no, it's never going to work, because I'm going to burn out, or you're going to burn out where you're not getting results because you think you put in the work and that you're not.
So I'm interested to know your interaction with the parents. Are you one of the coaches say, you can come talk to me, or one of the coaches say, look, if we got something to say, let's keep it short and let me coach? Do you get more dads? Do you get more moms? Because
I would say that's probably one of the turnoffs in coaching right now is, I would say, parents. The problem is that there's more parents that, hard coaching is holding your kid accountable is big in my program. It's big who I am. I hold my own kids accountable.
So you ask the parents to hold their kids accountable, or you?
No, the thing is, here nowadays with parents is when you're holding their kid accountable to something, and it could be extreme. It could be whatever it is, but it sometimes it's only extreme because they haven't been held accountable before.
Right.
Right. So when it's a behavior that I'm trying to change through my program, at the end of the day, you have a choice to be in the program or not. Right. And some parents can, challenge you and maybe wavering in how your standards are. And the minute you do that, you're going to lose your whole program. So I would say that's the biggest turnoff. But I've had a lot of positive, parents, who thank me because you're taking on their child. I'm doing the discipline for you. I'm making sure they have good grades. Like, we have a no D, no F policy. So if you have 2 Ds or if you have an F, you're not playing. That's just what it is. It doesn't matter what game it is. We have study hall twice a week, and that's just the standard now. Like, our guys know that, because why? We're setting a standard in the classroom, and then also we're holding you accountable to that standard. Because the minute, because we have a big game tomorrow, then it changes now. That you're going to lose your program doing that. So, parents, I would think it's across the board with all, youth sports and stuff going on, because it's actually a good thing because more parents are involved now in their kids when it comes to sports. So it turned into kind of a bad thing because there's boundaries. It's a new thing, so it's like there's boundaries that they cross, probably not knowingly. Some do know, but it's a new boundary there where you don't know where that line is, and then that's where it kind of gets the gray area. But
do you find yourself having to talk to the parents and say, "Look, can you back off for a second? Let me coach him."
I have, because the results show there, and it's not always. I usually have a parent meeting before the season. The biggest thing is we're not going to talk to parents about playing time. At the end of the day, if you want to come to practice Monday through Friday and be there for every single minute of the practice, then we can probably have a conversation about playing time then, right? But, if you're just showing up on a Tuesday and a Thursday, when we play on Tuesday and Thursdays, just at the game and telling me, well, so-and-so, but when we know, you're going to play how you practice, and there's things that lead up to that come out in the game.
Yeah.
So we always, as coaches, are able to tell how a kid's going to come on perform probably 2-3 days before that even game happens, right? We're trying to avoid it, but we know what behavior's been trending in that way. So to answer your question, but, you had it. I mean, I'm going into my 3rd year as a head coach. I've been coaching. I was coaching 4 years before that as an assistant. So before Antonio, shout out to Antonio, he had to deal with the parents then. As an assistant, I didn't. So I got 3 years of that. So I'll probably have more. Ask me that in a couple more years, and maybe I have more answers for you.
So do you feel like the fact that you're a product of Lynn has helped you in the community and given you some I don't want to say street cred, but that people, because as best as I can, I pay attention to basketball circles and all that sort of stuff. And you talk about beloved high school coaches. I feel like you're beloved up there already, and you're only in year 3 of coaching. Do you feel like your background in the city has helped in coaching up there?
I think it helps in the sense that I grew up there, so there's a lot of things that I can understand when it comes to my players or the area or the schools or what the kid's going through. So I think from that perspective, I'm able to kind of relate there. And then also, having the basketball background helps, right? I've been where some of these kids are striving to go and play, right? And, I've done academically and athletically, right? So I think, and socially, I know, Lynn's a small town, so everyone kind of knows each other. So socially, I know more or less everyone, or a mutual friend of.
Right.
So it's kind of makes it on that end. It's not always good on that end because then some people don't know how to separate the two, as far as that goes. But I think it has helped that. And then, me stepping in as an assistant in the program before.
You grew up with the
I grew
program,
up in the program as well as a coach. It was my first coaching gig in 2016.
Okay.
In those 4 years, we ended up winning back-to-back state championships.
Nice.
So that molded me and taught me a lot. I thought we had the best staff in the state of Massachusetts because it just was a collective guys of different college basketball backgrounds.
Yeah, y'all had a lot of experience.
Yeah,
man.
Leading with Antonio. So that was a big learning experience for me. And that I always told, Coach Bain may or may not remember Coach Moore and Coach Harry, and I always said I wasn't coaching. I said I would never coach. And I still to this day I tell Xavier that to him. I always said I never wanted to coach, because it just was I think it was part of the college basketball grind when you see the assistants driving and recruit in July, and you try to get this kid, you watch the visits, and just the grind of film, walkthroughs, scouts, and it's like, when do you even go see your family? It's like, family who?
I couldn't. I was texting with John Yachty the other day, who I don't remember. John,
he's from Vermont, right?
Albany, and
yes.
he's coaching at UMass Lowell now.
Yes.
I was just like, dude, how much longer you can do this? And it's gonna kill your soul. I was kind of joking, but kind of not. The college basketball assistant grind is. I couldn't. I couldn't.
I think that the high school grind was kind of that area that I was like, okay, I can do it.
Well, now that you've had some time, because it's been a decade since you were at UNH, I still remember that time really well, of your time there. But how do you look back on that time now? That I know that there was a lot of promise, there's a lot of heartbreak, there's a lot of really close. God, your sophomore year, man. Ronnie Chachua on that inbounds pass.
Oh, my God.
Ian Dane were talking about that. I'm sorry, Ronnie. I hate to bring it up, but geez. I did not want that Binghamton team. You guys were an inbounds pass away from hosting the championship game.
Yeah.
How do you look back on your time in college now?
Well, Tyrese Gibbs doesn't let me forget about it. I think I heard my tweak my MCL, then I didn't play.
Yeah.
And he blames that whole thing on me. To this day, it's like, it's your fault that we didn't get to. I was like, okay, because I chose to, sprain my MCL. I think I was going to play the next game. If we won that game, I was playing the next game. So I was in practices then. But I always tell people that was the best time, man. I know as far as we had so much promise, as far as at the end of the day, it comes down to memories and experiences that you have, right? Positive or negative, whatever it may be, but they're memories that to today that we we obviously we're mad about that and all that, but there's things that you went through, like that emotion of that, right? That you just can't put a price tag on. You know what I mean? We want to win more games? Of course. Do we have the players at the time, I think, to win more games? Yes, I think we did. A lot of things, my senior year when I tore my ACL, I think those when the pieces were together. I tore my ACL the second game. That was the team that I think that we knew we were rolling, we were in sync. We've already taken our lumps early on, and everything was geared for that senior year. And that second game of the year, I tear my ACL. You know what I mean? And Tyrone has a hell of a year, and Dane has a hell of a year that year. You know what I mean? But looking back at UNH, it was a great time for me. I had a great career there, and some awesome coaches over there, and it was a good time. And honestly, I think my freshman to sophomore year, I think it was when I first kind of started like hearing your name, and we used to be like, man, like, forget him. He's always saying that we're not gonna this, that, and the third. But looking back at it, it's like, we always lose these close games. We always lost by like a possession or two, and it's like UNH never got the respect. We didn't deserve. We didn't earn it, but still, as a college athlete, like
no, you won.
You're just looking for the next bulletin board material. It's like that's Sam Perkins. Man, we're gonna win. We're gonna go beat Albany. Because we never beat BU. Yeah. We always felt like BU was like you always had BU over us. And it was
he did. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it was like Sam always saying BU. He was probably putting out the spreads for them. So I'm like, at the time, we but looking back at it, you knew the America East, like you knew everything as far as when it came down to. So you did your research, and I respected your work. Obviously later on, right, when you know stuff, but and it was like, I remember. I think I was having it because by January I was starting my freshman year, and I was kind of like picking up, and then people are telling me, but seniors like, I think you're gonna make the rookie team, and then it was like, I think you're on talks of rookie of the year, and then John Holland at the end of the season like goes crazy, like he's 35. I'm like, he definitely deserves that. I'm like, he definitely deserves that.
John Holland was one of the players that came the most out of nowhere. He wasn't even really talked about that summer, and then
he was those BU teams were nasty with Corey Lowe, and I saw Corey Lowe, I want to say like 2 months ago at the Rivals practice. Man, I'm like, you just go back to that. It's like you immediately, it's like you said a decade ago. It's crazy. But yeah, John Holland was odd. Them guys were ballers, man.
Yeah,
ballers.
One quick question: was it your freshman year? Didn't Snoop Dogg come to a practice of yours or something?
Yeah, Snoop was there. Spring, he was there. It wasn't spring. It was no, I don't know. Either way, he was there.
Was he performing or something up there?
Yeah, he performed up there. So he came. He came into the gym, and thank God the NCAA didn't drug test after that because the whole gym smelled like.
Yeah, I heard he lit up in the White House. I'm like, wow.
But no, he was down to earth. He was cool. He was cool. He actually played. We played pickup.
Yeah,
we played pickup. Yeah,
I remember seeing pictures of that.
A couple guys in his entourage played, and then he had us. He performed that night at UNH, and he had us. Backstage, some really good chicken. Some really good fried chicken.
Yeah, good spread back there, right?
Yeah, good spread back there. So, but it was all love with him, man. It was a good experience when he came up there.
I gotta ask.
Was he tall?
He wore one of the jerseys. I don't know. It wasn't one of our jerseys, but he wore one of our jerseys to perform.
Was he tall?
He was. He's taller than I expected.
Really?
He at the time he looked like he was 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah,
at the time.
Something like that.
So he looked taller than I expected.
I gotta ask you, man. First impressions of Dane DeLegro. When you talk about out there people. And he's now in, were you expecting Hollywood? Just
honestly, if there was anyone that was gonna be in Hollywood, it was Dane.
I said that to him. It
was Dane. I'm not even surprised. I think I probably texted that to him. Like, look, if there was anyone who was gonna do that, it was you. Right. It was him. It's just Dane has that personality.
Yep. Yes, he does.
He has that good personality where we used to tell Dane all the time, you don't give about basketball, man, but because he just was, he was in everything. Yeah. He was in so much, and I'm like, how do you even have time, Dane? Like, how do you even have time to be in that with the college basketball grind? But he just wired to just go, okay, squirrel, like over here, let me go and see what's going on over here. Let's go over here. I'm like, Dane, come on, we're here, stay with me. He's my roommate my freshman year, so Dane's hilarious, man. You know, it's awesome what he's doing. I think I had him come down and talk to our guys, I want to say 2 years ago when he was filming the Predator at that time. And, you know, in the group chat, we're still trying to coordinate. His schedule's busy.
Yeah.
Mine's busy. We're still trying to coordinate just a kind of guys getting together.
We got him in here. It was like a midnight recording because of what his schedule was.
Oh,
when
it's
he was
crazy.
in town. Yeah.
It's crazy. It'll just pop up on you, too.
What do you miss the most about college, your time there?
My teammates, the camaraderie of it, hands down. It's that brotherhood that, you know, you do everything together. You know, it's that you see your brother like at his lowest, at his highest, you know, and you're just going through that same grind together. You know, it's probably similar to what guys in the military experience when they're together, when they go, you know, just that camaraderie that you have with your brothers, you know, the highs, the lows, the laughs. Like Eric Gilchrist, I probably haven't seen him in 10 plus years. We're on Instagram, just, you remember this time, you remember that time, and just talking so many different stories, and just, I legit laugh at it today like it just happened.
Yeah.
Because it's just so funny. Like, we have so many memories, you know, with your teammates, and that's what I want when I push to, you know, Xavier, and I push to my guys here at English, and any guys in Lynn. It doesn't even have to be in my program. Is that, and we always said it as coaches before, and when I was an assistant as well, we just want you guys to experience that, because no matter what the level is, that had no level on it. All I said is my teammates in college, right?
Yeah.
Because you did everything. You went to the dining hall together. You figured stuff out together. You got yelled at by coach together.
That's right.
You had to run at 5 a.m. together. You know what I mean? You lost together. You won together. And it's just like, it's stuff that will stick for you forever. You know?
It's never the same again. And that's, I'm not saying like adulthood I love being a parent. I love my wife. But you don't have that same experience once it's over.
It's over.
And even if you go into the pros, it's not the same once you're in the pros. Like high school, college, whatever it is that you're like, when you're all kids, you're all the same together. Like, you never duplicate that. The number of days that I will eat lunch by myself because it's like in the working world, and like like in college, so you always had someone that had your backs. It's just never the same after that.
Exactly.
So you're coaching at a public. We've talked, Bobby and I have talked. We talked with Gene Bain about this a lot. How much the landscape has changed in Massachusetts, especially, and like most public schools, if they have a kid who is too good too early, that kid is going to leave for a prep school. What are the challenges of coaching at a public school?
I go back to what I said. You have to adjust to it. That's the times right now. It's like the transfer portal in college. That's at the high school level now, meaning that you saw it early on in AAUs, right, where kids would jump that. Now, if the kid is good, you know, you lucky if you have him for 1 or 2 years. Mm-hmm. Lucky if you have him 2, he's out of here after the first. So it's the challenge, and I've talked to other head coaches around, is that it's like you investing in a kid to like get better and trying to get them better just for, you know, for them to go, right? I'm going to always want the best for a kid at the end of the day. If it's a better opportunity, you know, for you to go, you know, I'm all for you getting a better opportunity. But, you know, it's one of those new things happening right now, so they're not always done the right way, which I don't know what the right way is, but it's just the nature of it right now, because public school, honestly, is down because all the kids are going to prep.
Well, you know, I think there's a lot of complexity in that, because you've got the kid who, in all honesty, if he goes to a higher level school where all the coaches are going, then he's going to get looked at a little bit more. Mm-hmm. The talent level that he's playing against is going to be better. But if he's coming out of a city, you know, like Lynn or Charlestown or any place else, then now all of a sudden you got the coach there wondering, well, why am I putting in all this work with the kid if he's going to leave anyway?
He's going to leave anyway.
Which, you know, calls into question, you know, the intentions of the coach, because it's supposed to be about the kid.
Yeah.
But now you got NIL and everything else, and the kids worry about getting the bag.
Yeah.
right? So, now you got a little mercenary on you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's tough. It's tough, Bob, because it's one thing when you're in my program, I'm not going to, look at you any different. I'm not going to worry about if you're going to leave me next year or not. I'm going to give you everything I have, every resource I have, even after. Like, one of my top guys, Warren Kill Jr. last year was our MVP in
What's
the
his
league.
name?
Warren Kill Jr.
K.O.?
Warren Kill
Okay.
Jr. Yeah, he's MVP in the league, top point guard in the state last year for us, leading scorer. He left me. He's at Bradford Christian now, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him because we were able to help him with different things and expand his game the best we could. And if that's the decision he makes, I don't hold nothing against you. You know what I mean? And sometimes a kid may think that that's the case, but it's not. It's not, because at the end of the day, we're in this. I'm at the public school level. It's not like it's not like an MBA level. But I do care about it, right? I do care about your future. I do. My main thing is I like to instill the character traits that are gonna help you push you forward after me. That instilling responsibility, being on time, right? Accountability. Making sure that you're a good teammate, communication, leadership, things that are going to help you if you take the basketball out and substitute a job. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or whatever it may be, a career, or it could be in college where you got to take care of that yourself. Stuff like that, and being self-disciplined. Those are things that are important to me for you to move forward. And obviously, I'm a competitor, so you're going to want to win games, obviously. But it's tough times right now. You're going to lose a kid. Yeah. You're going to lose a kid after, a year or two to go prep.
Now, you've always been a competitor, and going all the way back to your freshman year, Bill Harrion, back when he liked me, then he didn't like me after a while. But he said from day one that nobody worked harder than you. And
y'all losing all the
he said nobody worked harder than you. Nobody. And I know how much you love the game. We've talked about it for years. You had the opportunity to play after college. How did you make the decision that it was time to move on from being an athlete, from being the epicenter of your universe, from playing the game of basketball as your priority? When did you decide to move on to the next phase?
It's crazy because it's something you've been doing for so long. It's like you have to bury someone within you that that doesn't want to die. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? And you go through that weird transition phase, kind of like when you graduate college. I don't know if you guys felt this. When you graduate college, it's like kind of the what now, and it's the real world, and you go home and everyone's doing this regular stuff, and you're like, what's going on? Like, you're kind of trying to figure your next move out if you haven't figured it out already.
Yep.
Right? It was kind of that transition for me, but it had to be made. The professional world of basketball I saw it economy-wise, right, whereas lower paying jobs in different countries and stuff like that. I saw the writing on the wall early, but just the instability of it. I was seeking more stability at the time and consistency, that the decision was easy from that perspective. Now, I knew I had to make that decision at that time, which was, I think, in 2016, and it's like, but still the basketball, life in me was like, no. But it was like, you need more stability. You need, to kind of be more consistent. And that's what I got to a point where that meant more to me than, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it was needed. And Xavier was getting old at that time. And I'm like, look, I don't want to keep, the going and coming back and stuff like that. So
he was about 10 or 11 at the time?
I can't even remember, Bobby, man.
You just know you had to be back home.
I had to be back home.
Yeah.
Do you still hoop at all in leagues or recreationally or anything?
I do. I hoop once a week. We have a Sunday service crew that we wake up at. We play at 8:30 a.m. on a Sunday. But I just actually got back into my Boston. I used to play in Boston leagues like 3 years ago. I used to play like in all leagues in Boston.
Where is that, on Vine Street? Where you?
I used to play in the Vine Street. I used to play in the Vine Street a lot. I think I stopped that 3 years ago when I had my daughter, and then I got back into it. So now there's a 34 and over league over there, and at the Tobin.
At the Tobin, yep.
And it's all like pros basketball guys, like college basketball. It's not just your average Wiley.
Yeah.
That's a competitive. It's NBA team. There's a draft. I think we're on.
Wow.
I think we're 2-2. I think now, but it's. I still play.
That's awesome.
I still play, and sometimes I get up and down with my guys.
Yeah.
I get up and down with my guys. We play pickup. I think that's important too, to bring the competitive juices there as well.
Did you ever make an appearance at the UNH alumni game?
I did initially like years ago. But I haven't as of late.
Was my guy Austin Ganley playing in it
Oh
back
man,
then?
he got bounced.
I know.
He still does.
God.
He still does. I remember that pickup game. He still was dunking. I'm like, dude, like I can't even do that right.
I will never forget, man. I will never forget. Austin,
Bounce.
as far as anyone that was like above, say, 5'10", like, because, little guys have just, there'll be the little guy that have the great, but like he had the most in-game bounce out of anyone I've seen at that level.
Wow.
He dunked on a guy from Vermont so badly in one game. He took off from outside, from like.
Man, you didn't take that away from my guy Ty Conley.
I know
like,
those guys.
I'm
could jump.
biased. I gotta go with my
jump.
guys. Like those guys could jump out the building.
I know they could jump, but Austin was, when he took off from 1 foot, it was a different level.
Yeah.
And he dunked on this dude so badly, and it was like he stepped over him and he adjusted his sports goggles when he stepped over the guy. It was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen on the court up there.
Yeah. It was the New Hampshire version of AI.
It was the step over, but it was this goofy looking white guy, and as he stepped over him, he adjusted his goggles, and it was just like, it was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen on the court up there.
I didn't know we had the New Hampshire version of AI, Tyrell Lue. I didn't know that.
So, do you keep in touch with any of your college coaches?
Yes. I talked to Coach Bain pretty often. I haven't talked to Coach Herrian since they left UNH. I've talked to Ryan.
Yep.
Talked to Ryan. Coach Moore when I go up there, and Coach Demps, like on lines and stuff like that. I think when you college coach, like those guys, man, it did so much for you when you're in college, man. I appreciate them so much on that. Side of your family, like they make sure you're straight when you're on a college campus. So
I know Ryan is at ULO, and I think Moore is at Merrimack now. Yes. I think so. Like they're still pretty local.
Yeah.
It feels weird to me that Bill Herrian's not coaching college basketball this year. Like he's been around like literally I think certainly since my earliest basketball memories back when he was at Drexel in the 90s and I was a little kid. Like I can't believe he's not coaching somewhere.
I said that to Rye. I talked to Rye the other day, 2 weeks ago. It's weird because when you're talking to like Ryan about Xavier, it's like weird. It's not weird, but it's weird. It's like you're talking to me as like looking at him for college type of thing. It's like we're really talking about my son, like because he's seen him in diapers, right? So it's like now he's asking. He went to see Xavier play pickup at Phillips Academy, Andover. That's where he's at. So he went to go see him.
He's over at Andover.
Yeah, he's over at Andover. So he's like, Xavier, looked really good tonight. Kind of like
what's his size?
He's a scholarship guy.
What position is he?
Xavier, more, but he's a 2.
He's a 2.
He's a 2. He's about 6'3".
Got your bounce?
Right now. I had no bounce, Bobby. Come on, man. I tell you, I had 2 knee surgeries, 3 days. I can't get over that. Everything for me is off of 2 feet or outside that 3-point line. And that's it.
You said outside that 3.
I'll tell you the one thing when we talk about game, though. I was going to bring this up earlier. One of the things I remember from your freshman year that I noticed right away, and I did say this to Coach Herrian. So by that point, we were living in the 3-point era. We're even more in the 3-point era now. Mm-hmm. And you could shoot it, and guards like to finish in transition off the break, do something. But in the half-court set, man, you got to the rack, and you would go through people, you would go around people, and it's something that a lot of guards do not do. No. And, like, tell me about that mindset, and is that something that you've worked with Xavier on, is, like, go to the hoop at times? Because I feel like nobody does it anymore. Yeah, he's Xavier. He has a mid-range game. He can shoot the 3-ball, but he can get to the hole now. Now that he's, we started lifting over the summer and stuff like that. So now he gets physical, so he's able to get to the hoop now.
And then now he has bounce. So now he's dunking, he's attacking the rim, which is big and has expanded his game big time and his confidence. So it's something I said, like, when you get to the foul line, there's two things. You're getting closer to the bonus. And now you're able to score at the line. You know what I mean? It's the breaking down scoring. If you notice, the people that can score and that put them up, they get to the foul line.
Down the line, yeah, they got 12 foul shots. They get to the foul line. You know what I mean? Because that's the art of scoring when it comes to that. It's a hard game if you're scoring all your points off of field goals and threes. It's a hard game. Now you're breaking it down at the foul line. So being aggressive, I know my freshman year I got to the line a lot. Yeah. Got to the line a lot, but that was a big thing. Just kind of putting pressure on defense is not settling. You know what I mean? And jump everything at my time was off of 2 feet. You know, because if you're not going to dunk it, you have to 2 feet, shot fake, or you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I think that was important. It's that Rod Strickland.
Do you still talk to Tyrese?
Gibbs?
Yeah, Gibbs.
Yeah, I text him over the summer.
I've been trying to get him on here, and then he just ghosted.
Tyrese that's Tyrese though. Tyrese, he was always the guy, because he was, I think when I was a sophomore, he was a senior.
Yep.
And I was Captain Reese or whatever. And I'm like, if you text him today, he's gonna text you like 2 days later. I'm like, Reese, like, how does that work? So that's him on my end. But now, I mean, I've checked in on him. I know he was coaching last year up there.
I don't know if he's still there. I don't know.
He's not there.
I didn't think so.
No, he's not.
You know, before you got to UNH, Tyrese could jump. Like his freshman year, he had some in-game.
He did.
Like he dunked on guys. Like, I don't know what happened, but
he used to tell me, and then we in our locker room we'd argue about it. And I'd say no, because Tyrese was the biggest guy. He was a big motivator in his own way, and the way he motivated was just talking to you like, hey, you suck. It's like, okay, and you go out there and you don't play. But at the end of the day, that was his tactic to get his guys going. Yeah, because he needed to know kind of who's going to be with him, in the mud when it came to in game time.
So what do you see for yourself? Like, what's your goals now? I know when your younger goal is like college basketball or NBA or, all those sort of things. But, like, you're on the other side of it. You work a regular job. I know that coaching is a passion thing. Nobody that's coaching for the right reasons, and you're coaching for the right reasons, who's coaching public school ball, is doing it for anything other than passion and caring about kids. Like, if you're doing it for the right reasons. Like, what are your life goals now?
I mean, my life goals is as far as, I always want to take care of my family. That's the number one goal for me. My 3 kids, my fiance. That's my number one goal. Has always been there. Like that's a goal, to take care of my family that way. But as far as my goal, as far as, let's say, coaching wise, is to impact as many kids as I can positively. Which meaning that when they look back, during their time, with me, one way or the other, that they learn something that's going to help them carry them through life in some way or the other. Something that held them like Coach Al was annoying with that, but man, like, I'm looking at me doing it today, or me preaching it to my kid today. You know what I mean? Coach Al always said, be on time. Or Coach Al always said, just work hard, or, and stuff like that. You might not appreciate it now. We all were there as young athletes, right? Or he was getting mad with this. Or I just want to impact the best I can, doing the best I can, and let the results fall wherever they fall. You know what I mean? And the minute that I can't give it my all, then you let it go. You let it go, yeah. You let it go. Yeah. So I'm fine with, I can't put a finger on what exact goal that is. But it's for right now, it's just impacting the best I can through the basketball program I'm at now with the kids that we have.
I'm not sure if there could be any other goal. I mean, that seriously sounds like a growth goal.
Yeah.
You're significant in these kids' lives, and I mean, I don't know how much more important you could get than that.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like at all it's about winning games. I mean, that's important, but everything I hear is you saying that you want them to learn in life.
Yeah.
And that's tough, man, because they are in a rough world right now.
They're in a rough world, and more, we come from a city with 5 high schools, so the background in Lynn is very, very, very competitive. It's very competitive, where sometimes it can be almost toxic, right? And at the end of the day, let's say I was 5 basketball coaches in Lynn, which have some really good coaches and good role models right now. At the end of the day, if we all are putting our part with our programs and our kids the best that we can, then Lynn should have a better product when it comes to the youth in the future. It should. Is that the case? I'm not saying I'm doing anything perfect. I'm just saying that should be the goal when it comes to impacting a community it's hindered by a lot of violence. It's hindered by a lot of, teen pregnancies and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people doing good things in Lynn. But there's just a lot of violence right now. In Lynn, over the summer was a lot of violence, a lot of young kids dying, kids that are in their 20s, early 20s and stuff like that. And it's like some things that you just like, that's not life. And what I try to do with a lot of the, aside from my families, I'm trying to, with the kids in the program, is broaden their image of what life can be. This is not life. Lynn, we always say Lynn doesn't have walls. Get out of Lynn. You're going to come back. You can come back, and it's going to be doing the same thing, but to broaden your experiences, right? And that's why we push, go to college. I know it's not for everyone, but still, if you go to college just to get an experience and learn and just get out of Lynn, and then, you can always come back at some point, but just get out. And I want to make sure that when you do get out, that you're going to be fine when you do get out, because you have the fundamental values you need for you to be successful.
Well, Alvin, I really appreciate you joining us, man. It is always blown away by you as a person. I wish that I had played for a coach like you. Bobby, I think that every time we talk about here, I honestly, I never really felt like I had a coach that actually cared about me off the field or the court or anything like that, and it makes all the difference. But Alvin, thank you so much for taking the time to come join us. Bobby,
appreciate you guys. Appreciate you being here, man. My man.